Hi everyone, it's Becky here from Ivy's Corner with another quick tangle of the day, a little mini mono tangle that I'm going to narrate and draw for you here and demonstrate how to draw. So in today's lesson I'm going to do another key kind of tangle that you will probably learn early on in your Zentangle journey, one that is often taught as one of the first tangles that you will learn in Zentangle, and it's a really simple tangle that I'm pretty sure anyone can draw. I mean, anyone can draw any of the tangles because it's all just one step at a time, but this one really is very simple and very repetitive and also very relaxing to draw. And the tangle we're going to do today is called Tipple. Now, I like Tipple because it reminds me of lots of little bubbles in a champagne glass, a little tipple of choice. If you like a little bit of fizz, it reminds me of that. And so what I'm going to do to start off with, I have here my 2" by 2" Fabriano Tipple square paper that I've cut myself from a big sheet. I have my Zentangle pencil, my Micron pen and a tortillon here as well. I'm going to start off just by drawing a simple string. So this is my string, just a little space in which to add my tipple. And I'm going to grab my pen and go straight in with some lovely orbs. Now, obviously the 4 elemental strokes within the Zentangle method are I, C, S and O. O being the orb or the circle, and our tipple tangle is comprised solely of orbs. So we're going to go straight in and do lots of lovely orbs. Now, often with tipple, these orbs will be roughly the same size, or you can change it up and do some large and some small. I'm going to do a little variety here, keeping them all roughly the same size. Now, one of the things that I like about this tangle in particular is that it is very repetitive, as I said, and it sort of requires you to slow down a little bit, because it's easy if you want to just kind of do it quickly, you can do your orbs, but can you see how a lot of these orbs don't kind of finish properly? They end up having kind of cut off bits, or the tails disappear off. And so with practice, it's easy to kind of get into the rhythm of making sure that that doesn't happen. So I like to draw nice and slowly with my tipple, and just take my time to really spend some time making sure that those lovely orbs are complete orbs rather than hastily drawn squiggles, I suppose. And you can see here that I'm starting to vary my sizes a little bit. If you wanted to keep everything a bit more uniform, then absolutely you can do that. It just gives a little bit of a different effect for your particular tile that you're drawing. You can do 1 or 2 really large tipple, but really it's just a series of orbs that are nice and squished in together within the space that you have available to you. So as I said, it's a lovely, relaxing, repetitive tangle to draw. I'm sort of just being guided by my string line here. And you can kind of start in a new area if you fancy. You might, if you want to, you can kind of go along, or as you go along, you can fill in these small spaces in between, or you can leave them open. Adding that ink to them will just give a little bit more depth and drama to the spaces that you have. It doesn't take too long to just add a drop of ink if you're going back to do that. But it's a really lovely tangle to add some texture, add a little bit of kind of almost like a space filler, really. Very, very simple and a very classic tangle that appears a lot, and you will see coming up time and time again in artwork across the Zentangle world and the Zentangle method. So just continue to fill your space with these orbs, nice and repetitive, and they are, you know, not all the same uniform size, but that doesn't mean that they're not a pattern. A pattern is a series of repeating strokes, and you know, part of the pattern in this case is that they are different. So just because they're not all identical does not mean that they are not creating a really beautiful pattern. So you can go back and fill in these interstices, as I mentioned, and just take your time to fill in these spaces. And what we'll do is, once this space is a little more filled, I will just show you how to shade this tangle. So just coming up to the edges of my space here. And I think also what I'm going to do is just show you how sometimes Tipple, I find when I draw it in my tiles, it likes to escape its area that is designated in which to draw, and so it might float off a little elsewhere or appear in other parts of your tile. So you can have a little play around with that. And now what I'm going to do is cap my pen, and I'm going to pick up my Zentangle pencil, and I find that Tipple lends itself quite well to cushion shading. So if you have an area that you are filling in your tile, you can shade all around the edge and just darken those edges of the space. So just adding graphite all the way around the edge, like so, and then softening into the centre. Now the other thing that I like to do with Tipple, let me just soften this and I'll show you the cushion shading. But the other thing that I enjoy doing with Tipple is to maybe shade some of the, depending on how you've drawn it, if you've drawn lots and lots of small orbs and then you have a few larger ones, is to shade all of the smaller orbs. So the smaller orbs end up kind of becoming more of a background texture with the larger orbs rising to the top. Let me just fill these bits in because I didn't do that at the end, did I? There we go. Just spotting things that I forgot to do. I was getting carried away with my shading. So you could then go through and maybe add some more shade to these smaller orbs here, or maybe even some bigger ones that you want to kind of make fall backwards away from the front of the tile or the tangle. So you just choose whichever ones you want to make that happen with. It can be bigger as well. And then you can soften that, just kind of passing over your areas that you've added the graphite with little circles, like so. So that's quite a fun way of shading Tipple because it gives it a very different look. And then finally, the last thing I like to do is just to add a small curve, and usually with the residual graphite on the end of my tortillon, just add a little curve to add a little bit of depth to the ones that are left white, and that gives some really nice dimension, like so. Not forgetting our little ones that have escaped, you can just add a little touch of graphite to one side and maybe a little shadow below them as well, like so. And that is Tipple. I hope you found that to be a useful lesson. Hopefully you if you haven't come across Tipple already in your Zentangle practice, then it will be one that you decide to use more often. Do hit like and subscribe along to my channel if you'd like to see more videos from me. I'm always sharing narrated videos and other bits and bobs to do with the Zentangle method and the world of Zentangle. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Pinterest and YouTube Shorts. I'm Ivies_corner_arts. So do follow along with me there. I would love to see you there. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.